right, thank you for staying with Daybreak, and the conversation begins right now. The people versus government, and they're having the young legislators with us here in studio. Honorable Kaliba Mrs. here, Saboti, Member of Parliament, Honorable Njeri Maina, Woman Rep Kirinyaga, and Honorable Esio Kenyuri, nominated Senator, all part of the Kenya Young Parliamentarians Association. Also, Eric Omondi is here, youth activist, Kasmuel Makoure, youth activist, and Richard Keno, a lawyer. Thank you very much for making time. So, there's something the president said when he was dissolving his cabinet. This is what the president said going forward.
I will immediately engage in extensive consultations across different sectors and political formations and other Kenyans, both in public and private, with the aim of setting up a broad-based government that will assist me in accelerating and expediting the necessary, urgent, and irreversible implementation of the program that we have, including other radical measures and programs.
Jerry, what should a broad-based government look like?
First of all, Trevor, I think going forward it's very important we see a cabinet that is competent, that is accountable, that has people who have a proven track record. And it is also upon us to ensure that we do not want to pinpoint that the president or the appointing authority ought to have maybe this particular person. Because at the end of the day, competency must be on the table. And I was in a certain forum led by my very good governor, Anne Waiguru. And we had a conversation where issues were raised that, or rather concerns, that I had been giving a breakdown of the expenditure of government at the county level and the allocation for maybe the governor, the area member of parliament, and myself as a county MP. And I was missing the drift. But then I just caught on it that people are very averse to accountability. You know, and these are public resources. And what the Kenyan people are saying moving forward is that accountability must be on the table, whether consultations are being done, because we can do consultations, but then we are not having the parameters that are the irreducible minimums required of someone holding a cabinet secretary position. And I know we have seen even on social media forums, and we've had some brag, you know, that they had a D+ and they made it to the cabinet. And we know that there are some who even have issues with their certificates or how they acquired their degree certificates, and that is a parameter that must be met for you to be a CS. And Parliament also, as an institution, must also put its foot on the ground, because Parliament is the one that does vetting. So as a member of Parliament, I must be accountable to my people and to Kenyans at large of any action I undertake, because Article 1 of the Constitution says that sovereign power belongs to the people. And I think sometimes politicians, maybe, we get elected to these seats and think that we exercise our own conscience and independence of mind, forgetting that we actually represent people at the ground. So that is what I want to see. Is this a wake-up call by the going forward? And it is a wake-up call to every politician. And you see, like the case scenario I have given, maybe I have a very different style of leadership, because I walk down my people that this project costed 2 million shillings, and I can actually explain to a coin how I have appropriated or used your funds. You know, maybe perhaps we cannot be told how the county referral hospital, how much it cost and what went where, so that we know where public resources are going and how they're being utilized. Okay.
Kasmuel, is the president listening? Do you feel heard as young Gen Zs?
I don't need to feel heard by the president. I need the president and government in general to do what it was appointed to do. We did not appoint them to listen. We would have selected them to be podcasters if we wanted a listening ear. A broad-based government is a word salad by the president to try and obfuscate the truth of what it is that they're doing. There's a sinister nature to the political class where he has said that he will consult widely, and he will consult both in public and in private. And the president has shown an affinity to love to consult the clergy and the political class in public, but consult the youth in private. That is why the youth end up in cells, they end up showing up in swamps, dead. And I say this without fear of contradiction because I have not seen at any particular point the president make a deliberate effort to listen to the youth. And I say this because in the protests and demonstrations that we have led and orchestrated, the people the president has invited to the table has consistently been the clergy, it has been the political class. And that shows me that they are just trying to find ways in which to divide us. They have consistently infantilized this movement. That is why they insist on tagging it the Gen Z revolution. While this is a Kenyan exercise, that's why they've insisted to call us our children. They've insisted to go the route of appealing to us from a parental angle, refusing to acknowledge the fact that this is a political undertaking that we are doing. The president is not elected to listen to us. He is elected to lead a functional government, which he has proven that he is not interested in running. Because, be it as it may that he has dissolved his cabinet, there are several cases on graft and other gross violations of the Constitution that the people in the dissolved positions are getting away with. There are several demands that we have asked for that are going to get away. There is a list, for example, for former CS Ababu Namwamba that we were asking, what is a delegation that is going to Paris? And that is the same. The person who's coming in next will have to account for it because we have decided that we will hold this particular government accountable. Yeah. So we did not, it is not a matter of listening, it is a matter of good governance. Yeah. And there we do not, I personally do not have such great faith in the current ruling class and by extension, the president.
But he had an X-space with the Kenyans.
Under what circumstances?
And also, he's called for a multi-sectoral forum starting next week from Monday to Saturday.
The X-space was a knee-jerk reaction after we lost several lives. No life can be equated, no building is almost as valuable as a human life. We had blood split on Parliament grounds. We had brain cells floating on the tarmac. That's only when that he would come to the X-space. And I think the X-space was also a very disrespectful move in the sense that if you say that you're going to appear at a place at 2 p.m. as a president who has all the money, all the technology, all the intelligence at your disposal, and try to posture, and I think it was a very deliberate psychological move where the president was posturing as an old, amiable figure that I do not know how to use this technology, and you would see how shaky the camera was, the angling. I do not think that the president was doing this from a point of honesty. He came to the X-space, and the X-space, he was supposed to join as a listener. He does not summon us because what we do on the X spaces, they are our barazas. It is not, and when we claim we're leaderless, we truly are leaderless. When you come as a president, now we have to play respectability politics. When he says that he will hold multi-sectoral discussions starting next week, he has consistently shown that he is not interested in the voice of the masses. And I say this in confidence that the youth is the majority of the population of the country. He has not shown goodwill because when we say that we want to demonstrate peacefully, when we say that we want the war on graft to be cracked, he does not honor those. We have proven time without number that we can be peaceful. But the directives that the policemen have seem to be very contrarian to the kind of nature of the youth that we have in the country. Okay. So as much as it might seem that he is making steps, he is making baby steps in the wrong direction. If you zoom it out and look at it objectively, the president, I insist, is making these moves out of self-preservation and not the goodwill of the country.
Okay. Essie, what does a broad-based government look like? What should it look like? Because that's what the president is now grappling with.
First, Trevor, I'm happy we agree that the people of Kenya are sovereign and we are merely their employees. Trevor, first I want to be vindicated for I've been making contributions at the Senate, if you listen keenly. And I was one of the senators on government side to call the president to cracking the whip. Being on government side does not mean you do not own responsibility for your actions. And that's what transformative leadership is about. The president in the past few weeks has actually conducted very radical measures, which we as a country now need to give support for him to effect those changes. Because look at this, why are we where we are? We are where we are because our politics is tribal. we campaign by giving tokens to people. So I want to laud the Gen Zs for changing the conversation and for the president to elevate that conversation higher by inviting a multi-sectoral forum. I also want to indicate that partly this is because our focus is on the central government. As a senator, we have devolution where we have counties. Yeah. I was very happy when I saw young people saying we are occupying counties. Occupying counties is a good move also, because then we are moving the pressure from the national arena to the counties where there is grand corruption also. And Trevor, it's not about having one person in a position that you can address the challenges we are grappling with as a country. It's about creating a conducive environment for all citizens to thrive in whatever they are doing. Because if you give me a position as Okenyuri, that's just me. Whatever contributions I might make might not satisfy every other person who's around me. But the moment you give a conducive environment to every other Kenyan who's bestowed their hope in us, we are going to change the whole conversation, Trevor. Yesterday, I was moving in the Senate the Protection of Livelihood Bill, which seeks to protect people in informal trading who are in every day we see being mistreated in big towns, Nairobi being one of them, Trevor. So when we actually say the Gen Zs are agitating for transparency, good governance, I'm a perfect example of good governance. I can account for every single legislative proposal I brought in the House. I have the civic education bill, which I believe an enlightened citizen is able to make the right decision. If you're able to make the right decisions, you do not need to rely on your representation to take responsibility. Okay. Now look, I said we mobilize along giving people tokens. Yesterday, the president actually pronounced the public fundraising appeals bill being ready. That's a major milestone in trying to curb corruption that we've been largely talking about as young people. Yeah. And I want to also congratulate the young people who've come out in the streets for calling out political opportunists. Because when the Gen Zs came out on the first day, the issues they were candidly talking about are issues we see on a daily basis. But
Okenyuri, is it true really that that bill against Harambes will help cut down on corruption? Are you saying that it's because people wanted you to be part of the Harambes, that's why you are involved in corruption?
That's not necessarily the point. That's not necessarily the point, Trevor, because I'm actually giving a short brief of why we are where we are. Yeah. Because, Trevor, if you didn't want tokens, then you would vote for a leader who's giving you issues. Okay. Let me give my example.
So there's also the people involved in this.
The people who are watching me should judge me on whatever I've presented at the floor of the Senate in the short time and in the avenue that I've been given. It shouldn't be on how much I give you. Because if I represent you well, if I make laws that support people who are looking up to us, that's the best way we are changing this country, Trevor.
Okay. Yeah. Fair point. Let me bring in Richard on this. Richard, what does the broad-based government look like for you?
Thank you. Yeah. Maybe to begin, I would like to do what we call, reasoning from first principles to understand how this broad-based government can look like. And by reasoning from first principles, I would look at it from the perspective of a political philosopher called Niccolo Machiavelli, who talks about two ways in which governments are formed. And he says a government can be formed in two possible ways. Number one is when the nobles, the elite, come together, look at one of them, they take him to represent their interest. That's number one. Number two is when the people have the initiative and they look for one of them to represent their interest as their leader. I'm saying this because I want to put it in context, and I'm excited. We have politicians here. I would like us to understand politics from their perspective because they're in the shoes. And maybe in this perspective, I would like to point them to the 33rd President of the US, Harry Truman, who said that when I was young, I wanted to either play piano in a whorehouse or to be a politician. And to tell you the truth, there is no difference. So I would like to hear from the politician if actually there's a difference or it's the same thing.
There's a difference. I'm a pianist.
Let me hear what Caleb Amisi has to say about this. So Caleb, what does that broad-based government look like for you? Because there's a concern from the younger generation that this is just the usual politicians who will just be moved around as musical chairs.
Very true, Trevor. There is a big issue we are grappling with as a nation, youth population bulge. Not just Kenya. This is an issue that is affecting Africa because Africa is young.
Yeah.
And the leaders have tended to move away or shy away from addressing this issue, facing it head on. Youth population bulge will be here and is actually the cause of the Gen Z revolution. They always say youths are the trustee of posterity. Those are not my words. Those are the words of Benjamin Disraeli. What do we mean by youth being the trustee of posterity? The moment we capture and nurture this population and listen to it, that is the time we'll have solved half of our problem, be it politically, economically. And most countries who have faced this problem, even US during the J.F. Kennedy's time, there is what we call the Peace Corps, where he took young people across the globe. He formed a program where young people were sent to all countries, whether as nurses, needing to interact, to learn. When they come back to their country, they have done that experience you are talking about, the Iraq experience, they have everything. You walk to Germany. The other day I traveled to Frankfurt and I happened to go to a factory that manufactures John Deere, the brand of the tractors. And I found a young person coming out of that factory. When I interviewed him, he said one is in college, number two, he was very young. In fact, he's now those Gen Zs of German now. From the factory, he went directly to BMW. That's where now the shock of my life. If we have people in Grogon here, in the factory, Upper Grogon, anatoka hapo, na hiyo uchafu yake anatoa overall, anaingia kwa BMW. What does that shows you? The youth are empowered from very early. And that BMW, he never bought it. The government gives him loan. So that you work in the factory, the stipend you are given, you are also paid slowly until you finish. What is bothering the young people is that they are ambitious, they have the energy, they have the charisma, they are techno-savvy, they are innovative, but there is no environment for growth. The moment now you capture that, it's not about having a clean cabinet, a competent cabinet, is that are you addressing the issues of the young people are raising? And the cabinet you are going to bring, is it going to raise that issue? In fact, I don't know, people tend to say, because you have a PhD, you are competent. That is far away from what we are supposed to have. Can we see a vetting process of a cabinet minister for youth who is going to tell us how are you going to solve the youth problem? Don't just go there because you come from Azimio that you are going to make a coalition government. I think the
Do you think there's going to be a coalition government?
Broad-based means it's a coalition government. Which country do you live in?
You're the politicians.
You want
You're
a
the ones who
politician to say what? This is a coalition government you're talking about.
But will that answer what the Gen Zs are saying? Because
that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. We are an ethnically or heterogeneous society. We need to incorporate all ethnic in the government. That is aside. Fine, we can do that. But at the same time, as we do the coalition government, are we also looking at whether these people are going to address the issues? If they don't address the issue, the Gen Z, I belong to the millennial. But trust me, the Gen Z started this revolution, but they have incorporated the millennial. The parents are there. It is now everybody. So people are wondering, if you bring a cabinet that is not going, it doesn't matter whether it's a Mama Mboga. This issue are now over. These are political promises. You can wait for 2027 and judge the president upon what he made. But we are saying, how do we solve the issues of the country? It's the youth population bulge.
But that's what the problem is. You're saying that they're just political promises, but the Gen Zs and the youth are saying they're not.
That's what I'm saying. Those are his, those are Ruto's. I don't belong to Ruto's party. In fact, I said I'm the only member of parliament who has never met Ruto, neither shared a platform with him. Because his principles are mine, are like day and night. We'll never meet anywhere.
Okay.
Until he shares my principle.
Okay.
And I know if he had my principle, we'll not be here as a country. Okay. Because I've been consistently, if you look at my political journey, I've been consistently, sometimes alone, trying to point out areas that I think this government is going wrong. Every country has restructured itself economically. Yeah. The youth population bulge can only be solved. It is actually directly proportional to the economic status and your development path. Just the way the Singapore, the Malaysian were at some point with Kenya, and then they took off.
Okay.
So can you digest why did the Singapore take off very fast? We were at the same time. We are stagnated. We don't have the natural resources. So do they? They don't have natural resources. Okay. So why are they? So don't be fast. You are so fast to go to the political side of the equation. Yeah. I want us to understand. Yeah. Because if you just say next, you are missing the point. The point is this country must look at our economic strength.
Okay.
The moment we know where are we as a country, what do we sell to the world? How do we exchange with the rest of the world? How do we generate income? Then you will have to incorporate everything. The issue of finance will not be there. You'll have enough money in the economy. Okay. We are running away from addressing the economy and going to the political side. Okay. Because that's what excites the people. But we must face the future and realize there is a point in this country that as a nation, we've forgotten to ask, what is our strength as a nation? Okay. What do we sell to the world? How do we gain an income as a nation? How do we divide it to become second? Okay. So we run out of that question. Yeah. And that's why there is a whole population of young people. They have, in fact, now what they say, apart from being leaderless, they are futureless. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing. They are futureless. They don't know where the future is. Okay. If we bring a cabinet today and you have not solved the youth population bulge, tomorrow that cabinet will still go home. Whether they are professors, they are mamambogas, it's because they are not running away from the issues that bedevil this country year in, year out.
All right. Eric, so for you, when we're judging from what Mheshimiwa said, we're talking about the issue of the broad-based government. How should that look like when you envision it? But she's saying that this is going to end up to be a coalition government.
The word broad already puts me off and begins to anger me. We do not want to hear anything we've had before, like coalition, dialogue. What's happening on Monday is called what?
Dialogue.
No.
The national dialogue.
It's a dialogue, yes. The forum.
Yes.
No, we don't want that.
Yes.
We don't want the president to use any more coins on appointing committees and calling upon
sectoral forum.
What are those? We've seen those with the other governments. Trevor, we need to appreciate what's going on in Kenya. Kenya is trending worldwide, being discussed. Kenya was discussed in the Ghanaian and Tanzanian parliaments. Yeah. There's a Occupy parliament in Uganda ongoing. The power is now with the people. Trevor, the moment young people entered parliament and sat on Moses Wetangula's chair, there's a lot of symbolism. And that is why the president dissolved the cabinet. That word broad, I have an issue with it. We need a lean government. And the president has an opportunity that his predecessor never had, because they had to appoint people and to reward people. President Ruto could be the biggest winner of the Gen Z's revolution, because he's been given an opportunity to do what the people want, and nobody will judge him for that, and no friend will have any feelings about him for that. Yeah. What I want to see, the people carrying less burden in terms of taxes. I want to see a leaner government. If we can have fewer CSs, better. Trevor, I think I might be the only person on this forum that may have the moral authority to say what I'm about to say. Because I've been arrested 13 times, and my message has never changed. I started this mandamanos 2 years ago. And if the president asked me today, he has a chance to make history and leave a lasting legacy.
Yeah.
We need a very lean government. And me, I would even suggest, you see what's happening with the Governor Wamatangi. I would suggest, Mr. President, take your time. Take your time. When you are ready, we need to find a way. Sijui kama tutaenda referendum, we need to cut down on the number of counties and governors from 47 to 24. Trevor, you've traveled. You've been to Texas. It is a state led by a governor. It is twice the size of Kenya. Kenya enters into Texas 2 times, led by 1 governor. The president needs to leave a legacy. We need to cut down the number of governors in this country.
I agree.
I'm very disappointed in my friends. You have seen the work she does. Ni kazi nzuri sana. And the senator. How could we have a clause in the Finance Bill 2024 that taxes pads? Yet we have 47 women reps. They couldn't hold a forum and a manner and raise their voices as 47 women. What are they representing? What are they representing? As do we need women reps? If we had a clause,
that position is even.
We don't need the women reps. You know why? And I can confidently tell you, we don't need women reps because I had young men talking about pads and discovering pads in the Finance Act. While we have 47 women reps, wanafanya kazi gani? So the president needs to do away with people who need to be done away with.
Okay.
And upper kwa counties, he can go out as one of the greatest presidents in Africa because the world is discussing Kenya. And he has that opportunity to. Now, we started by dissolving the cabinet.
Yeah.
I know he will fire all the parastatal heads. Yeah? He needs to fire the IG today.
Prime cabinet.
He needs to fire the IG today, not tomorrow. You know why?
Yeah.
The IG is a soldier. He's a policeman. He understands the nature of his job. He was in the line of fire. People died. Ataelewa President Ruto. He needs to be fired yesterday. Yeah? He needs to be fired yesterday. If the president attempts to meet politicians with the intention to start a coalition government, Ruto will be a one-term president. And utakumbuka isiku. He will be a one-term and he might not even get to 2027. Do not bring back anything that we've seen before. This is an opportunity for Kenya to be an example to Africa.
Okay.
Our CSs watapointiwa. Upon taking office, they must take a pay cut. So the power is with the people, and the advantage is with the president.
Yeah.
Upon assuming office, you must. Hata uko na hiyo kazi, we are not discussing with you. You must take a pay cut juu hatukujui. Justaki rais appoint watu tunajua.
Okay.
So we
want a completely new set.
It's a new set.
No known faces, nothing.
No, we don't want to see. With all due respect, we hataki kuona political nini. This movement, Trevor. You know, sometimes we are too humble. Once in a while you need to nini. Once in a while you need to blow your trumpet.
Too lenient.
It's allowed.
Yeah.
Trevor, sisi ndo tulianza hii kitu bana, unajua. We can on this forum we can say it is tulianzisha hii kitu bana.
Okay.
Mimi nimeshikwa mara ngapi hata bibi yangu alalangi 11 times. Juzi Trevor, Finance Bill 2023. I was arrested 8 times. But the message changed, the same thing.
Okay.
Mr. President, cut down on the number of governors. I don't know if there's a lawyer here, you should tell us, before the end of your term.
That will require a referendum.
Yeah.
Huh?
But yeah, that's fine. But also, legislators, there's something that's coming your way, Jerry, and you cannot run away from this. The vetting of all these CSs comes through you. In fact, John Mbadi said it straight up. Listen to what John had to say.
This cabinet in totality, I have my fears. We are approving, if we do approve, we are approving a cabinet that is not so competent. We are approving a cabinet that I think the mindset of the appointing authority was not on service delivery. This is not a cabinet that is going to bring economic revolution in this country. We have a choice to make either decision to reject over 60% of these names or give President Ruto his skunk. Let us not interfere with it. We give it to him. He has asked for it. Let us give him his cabinet. We know he's going to run the government from State House. These are not people who can run a government. Apart from a few individuals who are not even more than 8, the rest are incompetent, unqualified, have integrity issues, are people who cannot deliver this country from where it is to the next level that we want the country to move in. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I will oppose most of the names.
Your time is up.
You guys already knew this was not the right set of people for Kenya, but you still approved all of them.
Thank you, Trevor. And, you know, Eric has adversely mentioned
the woman reposition where you sit.
And, you know, he's said that I do a very good job. But now he wants me to be jobless. And let me say this, Trevor, and just bring it to the attention of Kenyans and even Eric. As a young person in the National Assembly, I was actually the only youth who voted no in regard to the finance bill. Because I believe in transformative leadership and leadership that is people-centric. So we have had these conversations about trimming down government. When we introduced devolution in the 2010 Constitution, I remember having concerns and conversations about whether we had the capacity to expand the wage bill and have the burden on the Kenyan taxpayer. And I have always held the thought that we really devolved corruption. We did not devolve service delivery to the people, because true leadership must be centered around the basic needs of the populace. And for me, like I had said, is that Parliament is going to be on the radar. And unfortunately, I sit in only 2 committees, the NGCDF committee and the JLAC committee. And I did not have the prerogative of vetting any cabinet secretary. And I voiced my concerns in regard to vetting of one of the CSS. It's captured because Bunge is a house of records. And what I want to say is, even the Swahili say, Mgala muwe na haki umpe. And I can attest that the president is keenly listening to the populace and trying to make amends of things. And we must also have an honest conversation with the Kenyan voter, the regular Kenyan voter. Esio Kenyuri touched on tokenism. The politics of tokenism is something that we must discuss if we really want to have a government that is going to be held accountable. Trevor, if I have to give you an X amount of money for you to vote for me on the ballot, and I'm very privileged that I did not have to dish money to the Kirinyaga voter to be elected to the position I hold today. And that's why maybe perhaps I'm able to exercise a bit of a people-centric leadership and feel that I am accountable to them. But you take away from the moral authority of asking the question, what are you doing with X, Y, and Z? What legislation are you pushing on the floor of Parliament? Because leaders are supposed to do 3 roles: oversight, legislate, and represent. But then if we have the politics of tokenism in place, whereby the politician is dishing around money, and by the time they get into office, they're actually now planning to accumulate as much as they can for the next election. So they really never have the time to even be accountable to the people and deliver the agenda to the people. We also have the question of Harambes. Of course, Harambes are not the ones that inform corruption, but they also fuel the same, because it is centered around the politics of the mheshimiwa. You know, I feel so pained when I see that on a general perspective, people feel that the Mheshimiwa is going to solve all of my problems.
Yeah.
You know, the social issues at the societal level.
Yeah.
And that is an honest conversation we must have so that we can hold our leaders accountable. That is why we cannot call to order corrupt leaders. That is why we cannot tell them to their faces that they are not doing what is right, that they need to step out of office. That is why we cannot recall them, because we'll be called to a meeting, we'll be given 1,000 each, and then people will be clapping. You know, and you're looking, and it's just disappointing. But we also must introspect as a Kenyan voter and do away with the politics of tokenism so that we can hold our leaders accountable. And I want to urge Parliament, the committees that will be vetting the CSs, to exercise their independence, because National Assembly is independent from the executive. The appointing authority appoints under Article 132 of the Constitution, and then Parliament has to vet the CSs. So if they give us, if we give the Kenyan people CSs that are not competent, that do not have integrity, that do not have a proven track record, we must be answerable to our people. And I also want to ask the young people of this nation. You know, we have suffered from voter apathy. If you look at the IEBC records, young people in the past have not turned out to vote. And I always tell the young people of Kirinyaga County every time I engage them that their vote is what decides the fate of their future. Healthcare, infrastructure, education policies, and all these policies that government makes. So at the end of the day, young people must also agree and turn out, register first as voters, and then turn out in 2027 to vote leaders who are transformative, not because of the handout mentality. And, you know, I also feel that for them, sometimes you find, because of the high rate of unemployment, you know, it is a societal issue. But we must find a way to converse it as young people.
I want to hear from the legislators in the House, because you guys are on the spot. In fact, let me bring up a tweet here by Dr. Ekuru Aukot. It's still on the same line. Let's bring that up and see what you're saying. Dr. Ekuru Aukot said that President William Ruto has dissolved his cabinet for want of performance owing to the Gen Z revolt. The spotlight now shines on the Kenyan parliament and the MPs on the next scrutiny of nominees. Will they nominate people based on merit, or it's the usual musical chairs? And this is also the spotlight where people are saying you need to take a pay cut. Let me hear what Caleb has to say about this from the members of Parliament.
I was yearning to come in. First of all, I want to thank the women rep here, Njeri, because I was excited when she voted no against you know, the party position, the so-called party position.
Against all the pressure.
Thank you. This is something that I'm very proud of, and I think if we have such young people in Parliament who will, and of course me, I decided that even whether my party leader says yes or no, I decided I'm voting no. There are two things, Trevor, about I think the makers of constitutional democracy, and now especially the presidential democracy that we enjoy. They envisaged a system whereby the executive is independent to Parliament, legislature, as well as to the judiciary. And the two are supposed to be interdependent and balancing each other, checks and balancing. The executive balances the judiciary, judiciary balances the legislature, legislature balances the rest, like that. That was the tenets of the constitutional democracy. That's what it entails. But when we go to the real practice of our politics, because I was in the vetting committee for the last appointment from the minority side, we wrote a minority report against most of those nominees. In fact, our colleagues from the other side also had the reservations. But what happened? They were called to State House, and they said these names must pass. I'm asking them, and some of them are here. Let's be honest. Why are you called to State House and change your mind? And when we interact with them in Bunge, they say, no, this is not right. But they are called to State House and they're given marching orders that this is what you're supposed to do. This has been our biggest problem. We need to solve. In fact, when we are going to vet, because of course, even as Mbadi says, we voted against the names. That's why Mbadi says, I'm opposing. But the names passed or they didn't pass. They passed. Why? Because of the majority. Majority were from the president's side. That was not the purpose of constitutional democracy. The purpose of constitutional democracy was a parliament to be as a watchdog, not to receive commands from state house. That is our problem number one. Problem number two is this animal called tribalism. In fact, if you've just not played my clips, I wish you had enough time to look at my clips when I was vetting. And some of them I was so lethal to a point they said I have no respect. When I asked him, David, when I was 3 years old, you are a minister for transport. Now I'm serving a second term member of parliament. I'm vetting you for a position that does not exist in the constitution. I asked him that question. For 40 years in leadership, what else? What is this new you are going to do for this country? And what have you done even to your community?
But he's still the one.
But he's still there.
Now he's
so we have to ask the hard question. Don't tell me that he's there because of Luya. What Luya? Are Luyas running the country? We need to run out of this nonsense of tribalism. It is not helping this country. And I'm sorry to use that word. We need to face the hard facts. Let's not massage our issues as a country. Let's face the hard facts. Don't be there because of your tribe. Be there because of your competence. You cannot be the only person from that tribe qualified to be in government for 40 years. Come on. Okay. That is our biggest problem.
Okay. Can you truly exercise independence of mind and represent the people who you are supposed to represent, despite orders from the executive?
First, Trevor, the change we are seeking is going to come from us practicing issue-based organization. Because why do I say this? Your issues cannot make sense to you if you're not part of the formations. And the consultations are quite important because at the end of the day, after all is said and done, we have to have people who are taking responsibility for whatever proposals that are coming from the general public. When I actually, for the past few days, I've taken interest in studying what most of the protesters were actually agitating for. Very key issues feature. We have poor governance and leadership, we have corruption, we have the general economic hardship that we are feeling at the moment. We have mismanagement of public funds, Trevor. So if we do not want to consult with the different stakeholders who are engaging in what the protests that we have witnessed in the past few days were talking about, then how do we move forward as a nation? Because I'm looking forward to Parliament strengthening anti-corruption laws, protecting whistleblowers more. Yesterday, I saw Tatu City owners exposing matters to do with corruption. You know, we need to encourage such. It's one way of putting guys on the spotlight so that we jointly fight corruption. Corruption is not going to be fought from a bush somewhere whereby you're thinking it's just applicable to certain people. There has to be political goodwill from the political class. You clearly asked if there's independence in what I do. We inherited some of what we currently have from the 2010 Constitution. My position as it is an affirmative position. Why did we have some of these affirmative positions? Because it was very difficult to have young people as they are acquire some of these positions, because look, when you go down to elections, it's a very expensive affair. For the same reason I said, people glorify tokens and try voting along tribal lines. For us to move away from that, we have to change the way we do our things. Be it as it may be that I'm in an affirmative position, I'm looking forward to building my capacity to transit to elective politics. Okay. And I want to urge young people, the Gen Zs included, you have to organize and take your space also politically. And as much as I know they have largely spoken that, you know, they are not political, they are not interested in backing of politicians, but you realize in our governance systems, you need to be in those spaces for you to create the change you're talking about. Okay. In fact, Trevor, the sledgehammer is now going down to counties, to county chiefs who've appeared in Senate over integrity issues.
Okay.
If that fails, then they are going to deal with that through ballot system or face the wrath of the people down in counties. Because interestingly, we have 14 devolved sectors. If that surely is the case, we shouldn't be having a lot of pressure at the central government, whereby we are anticipating a lot to happen down in counties.
Okay.
And Trevor, also, I want to insist, it's not about the appointive positions of one person. Look, we are a country that is largely reliant on agriculture. For the past times we've seen, many people see what subsidizing farm inputs can actually do. So good governance needs efforts from actually all of us, people calling out people who want to engage in corrupt activities, not glorifying the same.
And let me bring in Kasmil on this.
Taking their mandates strongly. Like I always appear in Senate every other time you see us having sittings, not just appearing. I've brought very powerful legislative proposals that are we're going to change the fortunes of people and Kenyans generally.
Which is your role. Let me bring in Kasmil on this. And I started with the legislators so that they explain to you their thinking perspective. Do you as young people now have confidence in Parliament? And also, what is the ultimate target of this entire thing? Because there were certain things that you asked for, and there's been some concessions. Reject finance bill, it's been rejected. Reshuffle your cabinet, in fact, you wanted it to be disbanded, it's been disbanded. So what is the ultimate goal at the end of it all? And do you have confidence in Parliament? You've heard how they've spoken.
I think what the political class does not understand clearly is when we say Ruto must go, it includes all facets. It is his entire government. And that includes the alleged opposition. And once this is clear, we do not depend on Parliament to make these right decisions. And I say this because Parliament time without number has proven to be inefficient when it comes to representing us. It has gotten to this point where now they have this sudden awakening as a collective after we have gone to the streets, after we have lost lives. So we have realized that we, the people of Kenya, can orchestrate these changes. From where I sit and from where a lot of the youth sit, this Parliament is unconstitutional. It is not an impossibility that we could just decide to overhaul this whole thing and do this thing right. Because we cannot have a minority claiming that they are making the right decisions and try to make it look like it's a majority problem. What they should have done is come to us. The way they form all these pressers when they have political disagreements, they should have blown the whistle at that particular point. That is why we are saying we do not have faith in the political class. The thing which people do not understand, and the thing that pains me the most, is the fact that this is a genocide problem. And forgive me for using such a strong word, but corruption is tantamount to genocide. Because when you loot funds that are supposed to take to be for farmers or for the education of a child or for Linda Mama, you are effectively ensuring that there's a child who will not make it into life. There's a child who will lose to hunger. There's a youth who will be lost to theft. The political class needs to stop politicking and start doing representation, because it does not matter if it is anything to do with good governance clips, or as an influencer, as a content creator, we do that for free. There's nothing special about saying that we've seen this person is incompetent, because as the general populace, we know it is incompetent. As a country that is heavily dependent on our agrarian sector, I do not understand how, one, we cannot share seeds. Because remember, as Africans, we are very heavily united, and it is about umoja na ubuntu. We cannot have fake fertilizer scandals and all these people go scot-free. So the political class needs to, this is their wake-up call. From where we sit, we have said, as unemployed Gen Zs, We have decided to make this our form of meaningful and gainful employment because we've realized for far too long, these people have sat, looted the public coffers, moved around in big cars, having airtime allowances that are greater than the basic salary of secondary school teachers, spewing all sorts of vitriol against us, refusing to post interns. IDs cost however much they cost. Part of the things they should be agitating for is the IDs to be restored to, we need to be paying 100 shillings for getting these IDs. Certificates of good conduct need to be available. This NGCDF thing that people are consistently giving to constituencies, remove that burden because that's what they think they're doing us a favor by giving us a check of 10,000 shillings for school fees. Return it to national government. The amount of money they loot, you can make education free. We do not need thought leaders, we do not need subcommittees for this to run efficiently. What we are asking is for this government to run efficiently. And if they continue politicking, we will continue to agitate until all these things are addressed.
Yeah, but Kasmuel, have you envisioned what Ruto must go looks like?
Yes.
So what is that?
When we say Ruto must go and we're saying that we are overhauling an entire government, I do not know why the older generation is threatened. Because if we go into another election, it is going to be cheaper than the amount of money we lose in 1 year in corruption. It is going to be cheaper than the 1 trillion in public debt that has not surfaced in our books. It is going to be cheaper than the amount of money that we've lost in unconstitutional services. It is very easily fundable. We are not devoid of good leaders in the country.
But our constitution says this is done in 5-year cycles. Like the next one is in 2027.
Yes.
And if you say now we need to go into election as we speak, our IEBC has not been constituted.
It will be. But it will be constituted. And that's why we are saying we are not in a hurry. We do not want this to be changed next week. We have the time. But what we are saying is we will not let them off easily. The thing which people are trying to make it look like is as if we're calling for anarchy. You'll realize that we are very clear in our demands, we are very clear in our policies, and the concessions that the political class are making, those are concessions that are trying to just put salve on a much deeper wound. When this thing, there will be no destabilization. We are not pushing for anarchy or destabilization of the country. So even if these things are done in 5-year cycles, we have said we cannot wait for another 5-year cycle losing 600 billion in a year. It is not normal. Abnormal behavior during abnormal times is normal behavior. So if we have to go into an election for the political class to arise and awaken from their slumber, then so be it. We will go into another election cycle.
Okay. Eric, Parliament, you have taken this war to Parliament doorsteps several times. I've also seen you getting arrested right outside Parliament.
5 times.
What now needs to be done? Is that where the problem sits?
Trevor, today I'm a very happy man, if you've noticed. Yeah. I've not even attacked the president even once. Because I take my gains, I celebrate them, and then I move. Pole pole to tutafika. Today we are talking about the executive. The CSs are gone. Trevor, I want to promise you, God blessed me with energy. The moment IEBC is constituted, and that is soon, every member of parliament who voted no, we have their voted yes. Yeah. We have their photos, we have their names, we have their constituencies. We are going to write songs this year and do comedy skits. We are going to infiltrate, we are going to saturate Kenya with their names. We will sing them like the national anthem. Trevor, I want to promise you on Citizen, they are going to be recalled. They will not get to 2027 because there's a vote of no confidence on them. They cannot even attend the funerals. Yeah. Even Harambes. They cannot even go to their constituencies. Kenyans in numbers. And I have a personal vendetta. Trevor, nilitolewa hivi kwa farasi, nikagunga. I'm still going to the hospital. I fell down. Nimepigwa hapa. They will go home. Because now the power is with the people. We cannot allow them to sit in that house. So we are going slowly. Sasa CS wameenda. If you are a member of parliament and you went against your constituents, who shouted at the top of their voices, do not, and you went and voted yes, we are going to recall you and you will no longer be in that parliament. You don't need to, we will not wait for 2027. That is the power that what the president signed is going to give us because it is constitutional. We are going to rally young people. We're going to rally, finance it. We have the energy and the time. So executive, wacha tumalizane now. Trevor, today I'm not demanding. You see, even in war, when you win, you retreat, you re-strategize. I'm not demanding anything from the president. I am suggesting, I am requesting, I am proposing the following.
Yeah.
Mr. President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, for you to get back public trust, there are few things you have to do. Hamisi says, it's not just about qualifications, it's about experience. Trevor, since 1963, hakuna minister ametusaidia, wengine ni maprofesa. We've time and time we've shown experience is not the best teacher. In fact, experience enable mtu kukuwa more corrupt. Make sure, Mr. President, you appoint a Mama Mboga. I know what I'm talking about. Trevor, there are 3.5 million borders in this country. You want to tell me out of 3.5 million, we don't have one Kenyan who is qualified? If you go to Kakamega and such, and we vet, and we go to Kilifi, and we go to, and among the borders have associations. They have chairmen. Mr. President, you campaigned on one and only one promise. Huyu Mama Mboga, huyu border. Make sure there's a Mama Mboga CS. You will make history. Trevor, there's nothing I've said that has not helped this country or the president or its people. Make sure there's a Mama Mboga in your cabinet. You shall have made history internationally. And me, personally, if the president can raise a Mama Mboga from Awanjiko,
yeah,
and Mama Mboga is symbolic, and make them, we have 1 million qualified women in this country who are in Gikomba.
Yeah. That's your first request.
That's my first request. Thank you, Trevor. My second request is, and this is a request to the president, and it's good for him. Please dismiss the Inspector General. It's just for public trust. It's just a public trust issue. Dismiss all the parastatal heads, because hapo ndo tuko na shida za what Mheshimiwa was talking about, a bit of nepotism here and tribalism here. Yeah? And then Trevor, as Mheshimiwa, Madam Senator here said, we did not devolve services.
Yeah.
We devolved corruption. There's a current ongoing issue with the Tattoo City. Just a tip of the iceberg. Mr. President, reduce counties to 24. We don't need 47 governors. Do you know how much governors earn? The packages they have and allowances. If you reduce from 47 to 24, we'll have 24 governors. It automatically means we'll have 24 senators. Let us reduce wastage. Let us reduce spending.
Okay.
Reduce. We are ready.
Okay.
We are ready. If the Gen Zs think they have energy, millennials have extra.
Okay.
We are ready to go into a referendum. Yeah. Okay. Those are my requests.
Your 3 requests
for now. Suggestions.
Okay.
Suggestions.
Richard, really quickly, in terms of way forward, where do we go now? Because I'm just about to take feedback, then I'll come to all of you for closing remarks, very briefly.
Okay, to begin with, again, allow me to say that nations, just like individuals, are punished for their transgressions. And I'm a little bit struggling to understand, is Kenya today being punished for the transgressions of William Samoei Ruto or the transgressions of Kenya as a nation? And I'll address this in context of the 4 kings of Kenya's politics, which is tribalism, cronism, corruption, and the politics of betrayal. But I'll delve deeper in the politics of betrayal, and I'll put it in 2022, William Samoei Ruto formed government with the people of Kenya, the hustlers. And today the hustlers have gone to the streets in the Gen Z movement with the initiative, and they've said, you betrayed us. And I want us to put premium in the word betrayal. In 2013, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto came together in public. William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta told William Ruto, yangu 10, yako 10. In 2018, Uhuru Kenyatta, with the handshake with Raila Odinga, betrayed William Ruto. I want us to put, again, premium in the word betrayal. In 2002, Mwai Kibaki, together with Raila Odinga, Mamalu Kijana, and the politicians of that particular time, came together with what we call the NAC MOU. Immediately they go to office, up-to-date Raila and his friends say, Kibaki betrayed us. I want us to put premium in the word betrayal. At independence, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta ushered in a new republic. Oginga Odinga said, I am not going to form government until Kenyatta is released. When Kenyatta was released, they formed government. In 1966, when Oginga Odinga is walking out, he says there was betrayal. So now the question is, if we have to objectively address our issues as a nation, we have to go to the root. Where is the politics of betrayal coming from? Of course, this time round, William Ruto has betrayed the people. But if you look at the common thread in all these betrayals, it's what we call the kingmaker betrayal. Just that now, this time round, William Ruto has betrayed the people who happen to be majority, who happen to be enlightened and have access to information, and they have put him to checks and balances. So it's important, if we have to move forward as a country, we address our politics of betrayal, cronyism, tribalism, and corruption.
All right. Let me bring up some feedback here really quick. There's a lot of feedback. Let's see if we can finish up with that really fast. Let's bring them up on screen. At Trevor Mbiji at Citizen TV Kenya, use the hashtag Citizen Daybreak. Babu Michael says, I'm with Eriko's sentiments that President Ruto is at the best position to make great and patriotic changes to his administration and extensively to the counties, and he will not be blamed by any quarter because he will be doing people's will. Okay? Let's bring that up really fast. Kimugor Yagon says, Eric, how many Mamambogas have experience in leadership? All what we want is perfect service delivery with competency, not lifting others. Mamamboga government simply means affordable government. Okay? Kipto Ruto says the president must recognize that addressing Gen Z's demands necessitates a referendum, as dialogue alone is insufficient. Many of these demands require constitutional amendments, limiting his ability to act unilaterally. Okay? Sawe says this is a prime chance for the president to rebuild public trust, especially among the youth. His upcoming appointments will be telling. If he follows through on his promises, great. If not, we'll be here to remind him repeatedly until he gets it right. Okay. Gabi says, with that said, yesterday marks progress as President Ruto took decisive action by sacking his cabinet ministers. This should serve as a warning to all compromised and greedy African leaders. We elected them to serve the people, not to enrich themselves. Okelo says, my hearty congratulations to Gen Z and Uhai patriots for taking an active role in shaping Kenya's future. When history books are written, you deserve a whole chapter, not just a mention. Kudos. However, it's now time to apply for IDs and or register as voters. Okay. Gabi says, I commend WSR for his courageous decision to sack nearly all his cabinet in the face of weeks-long public outcry. He demonstrated sacrificial leadership to safeguard his country and its people. The Kenyan people exemplified the power of civic engagement. Mimano says, Kasmuel with wit sharper than a political commentator's quail, oratory skills smoother than a seasoned debate, and intelligence rivaling a strategist playbook. Guy. Alas, while we are leaderless, let's keep him as our witty sidekick in this political circus. Okay, this must be Kasmuel's friend. Gabi says, sacking the whole cabinet isn't for the weaker one. It's for the brave with the better intents to deliver better services to their people. Congratulations to you for listening to Kenyans instead of you to step down. It's better for the whole cabinet to go. Okay. Godi says our great Gen Z constituents should be careful not to be confined to perpetual protests. It's time for them to know when to sit back and let the changes they have agitated for take shape. In fact, that's part of the reasons we're going to finish with this closing back really briefly. What next now? What is we gained more? Should they step back? Should they not? But there'll be new faces coming from where the older ones came in, and new cabinet to represent their regions, because appointments are always done according to voting blocks, majorly contributed by ethnicity, which creates tribalism. All right, let's take one more here, then we close remarks. Last year, the president told us that his CSs were incompetent, but went ahead to leave them in office to continue messing the nation. He invited the pressure to himself. Okay? I think we should leave it there. Then I'll take just 1 minute each and every one of you. 1 minute, strictly 1 minute. Jerry, 1 minute, closing remarks.
Trevor, old faces were once new faces. What I want to ask and to urge the government is to release all protesters who have been arrested and are being prosecuted and who acted within the confines of the law. I also want to urge the government, let us be very cautious of seeing a return of extrajudicial killings and kidnappings. The temptation, we must resist.
Okay, 1 minute, Kasmua.
Corruption is tantamount to genocide. I stick by these words because we are currently not only being killed in every possible aspect, but our future is being robbed of us. We ask the president that if he's truly interested in forging a better country for all of us, he should make the reforms that really matter. The families of the comrades we lost must be recognized by the state and compensated. The police who shot at innocent protesters must be brought to book. It defeats me that you can find footage of people who are in parliament, but you cannot, with sufficient evidence, you cannot arrest the killer cops. We ask that this government acts in goodwill and not in political preservation. And if you do not, we are here to remind you that we will be there no matter what. And even if you silence our voices, more vibrant, more vivacious, more intelligent and eloquent people and leaders are going to arise from this movement. Do the right thing.
All right. Essie?
Trevor, I'm looking forward to more youthful, competent faces in case of the changes that we are looking forward to. And then acceptance is a virtue all leaders should emulate. By the president accepting to some of the issues we've been raising paints a brand new start. And we're in the right direction. I want to appreciate that he has prioritized Mwananchi interests, what we have actually been saying over and now again. And he's addressing the elephant in the room, public debt, which every other person is running away from.
All right. Richard.
Thank you, Trevor. The Kenya Kwanza government and the people of Kenya, we live in a constitutional democracy. So both of you are right in what you are affirming, but wrong in what you are denying. For instance, the government of the day is affirming that we live in a constitutional democracy where rule of law should apply, but they're denying that there are elements in how they exercise the people power, for example, extrajudicial killing and abductions, that does not conform to constitutional democracy and rule of law. So we call for that honesty. The people on the other hand as well, in as much as they're affirming they have a right to picket, demonstrate and exercise their sovereign power, they are denying the fact that actually in this exercise that power can be limited to the extent that it does not destroy property and threaten national security. So I think it's important that we understand we are in a golden moment in the development of our democracy as a country. And so the president and the people or the government of the day should decide whether to take us to anarchy or give us a new Kenya where there are issues, freedom, transparency, and accountability.
There you go. Amisi?
Yeah, thank you, Trevor, and thank you for having us for this. I think you could be calling us more often so that we delve into issues that affect our nation as young people. I think, Trevor, every generation has had a chance to rise up and do what needed to be done. We have a generation that fought for independence, we achieved. We have a generation that fought for multipartyism, we achieved. We have a generation that fought for devolution and the new constitution. This is now the fourth generation that must fight for economic emancipation, economic renaissance. So the Gen Z must not relent. They have the energy, the charisma, they are innovative, they are techno-savvy, they are charismatic, they have all that it takes to have this economic renaissance happen in this country in our lifetime.
Okay. Eric.
Millennials and Gen Zs form 71% currently of Kenyans. Our only insurance, all said and done, we may discuss here today and tomorrow, but our only insurance is make sure uko na kitambulisho, ID, na uchukue kura. Things are changing. So things might happen, things might not happen, but our only insurance is the national ID and a voting card.
Okay.
May the Mr. President please release all political prisoners.
Unconditional.
All of them. And then also compensate every family that lost a member. And please pay the bills of the of the people in hospitals.
Okay.
Because at least saizi hiyo pesa ya CSSA hii month inazaenda huko.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for making time this morning. Honorable Kaliba Mrs. Saboti, Member of Parliament. Honorable Jerry Maina, Woman Rep Kirinyaga. Honorable Essie Kinyuri, Nominated Senator. Eric Omondi, Youth Activist. Kasmuel Makoure, Youth Activist. And Richard Keno, a lawyer. Thank you all for having this great conversation with us. And thank you for sending in your feedback. It's time for us to take a break. When we come back, Ben Sue and DJ Gigi are back here on the decks. They're looking at me badly because I've taken some of their time. Nasikia ni Ben Sue and there's a new DJ. All right, let's see what happens right after that. Our Ben Sue ni nani anakuja by the? Kiki. From DJ Gigi to DJ Kiki. All right? That coming up in just a bit. Enjoy your weekend.